What if I told you that even in 2026, in an era of advanced technology, instant communication, and a world that moves faster than ever before, thousands upon thousands of immigrants are still stuck in the exact same place they were years ago, still waiting, still watching, still refreshing the same government website every single month, hoping, praying that their priority date has finally become current. And the worst part? This month's Visa Bulletin didn't bring the progress that so many people were desperately expecting. In fact, for several key categories, things didn't move at all. And for some people who were cautiously optimistic going into May 2026, this bulletin felt like a door being quietly closed in their face. Again. In this video, we are going to break down everything you need to know about the May 2026 US Visa Bulletin. We're talking about the latest changes, the real priority date movements, the categories that got frozen, the ones that inched forward, and most importantly, what you should realistically expect in the months ahead. Because here's the truth. If you misunderstand how this system works, if you misread a single number or follow the wrong chart, you could delay your green card plan by months or even years. So let's get straight into it. No fluff, no false hope. Just the facts. Before we dive into the specific numbers, you need to understand one fundamental truth about the U.S. immigration system. The Visa Bulletin is not random, it is not arbitrary, and it is absolutely not designed to be convenient for you. It is a tightly controlled system governed by three core forces: demand, annual limits, and per-country caps. And right now, in May 2026, all three of those forces are working against forward movement. Here's how it works at the most basic level. The United States government issues a fixed number of green cards every single year, across all categories combined, employment-based and family-based. That number is set by law and does not change based on how many people are waiting. It doesn't matter if 10,000 people are ready to receive their green card. If the annual quota is full, the line stops. Now, within that fixed annual number, each visa category gets its own allocation. Employment-based categories like EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, and EB5 each have their own share of the pie. Family-based categories like F1, F2A, F2B, F3, and F4 have theirs. And then, and this is the part that creates the longest backlogs, there is a per-country limit. No single country can receive more than approximately 7% of the total employment-based or family-based green cards issued in any given year. That sounds fair on the surface. But when you have massive countries like India, China, Mexico, and the Philippines with enormous numbers of applicants, that 7% cap creates a catastrophic bottleneck. A person born in a country with low immigration demand might wait 1 or 2 years for their green card. A person born in India filing under the same exact category, doing the same exact job, might wait 20, 30, or even 40 years. This is the system. This is why people are still waiting. And May 2026 is not changing that reality. Let's talk about the news that is hitting the hardest for the largest number of people. For employment-based categories, specifically EB1, EB2, and EB3, there is almost no meaningful forward movement this month. Let me say that again so it fully lands. No major progress. For EB2 India, the priority date is still sitting around July 2014. That's not a typo. July 2014. We are in 2026, and people who filed their applications 12 years ago are still waiting for their turn. For EB3 India, the situation is even grimmer. The priority date remains stuck near November 2013. 13 years of waiting. In many cases, these are highly skilled professionals: engineers, doctors, researchers, IT specialists, people who have been contributing to the U.S. economy for over a decade, paying taxes, building lives, raising children who have grown up knowing no other home. And they are still in line. For EB1 India, which was once considered the fast lane of employment-based immigration due to its priority worker designation, there has also been minimal movement. The spillover relief that many EB1 applicants were hoping for has not materialized in any significant way this month. For China, the picture is similarly bleak. EB2 China and EB3 China continue to show minimal advancement, held back by the same per-country demand that keeps India frozen. For all other countries, those not subject to country-based oversubscription, EB1 remains current, meaning applicants can proceed immediately. But for the two countries with the highest demand, movement is measured in weeks per month at best, and sometimes not at all. So if your priority date falls after these cutoff points, you are not moving forward this month. And based on current demand trends, the short-term outlook is not encouraging. Now, here is where things become critically important, and where many people make a very costly mistake. The Visa Bulletin publishes two different charts, the Final Action Dates chart and the Dates for Filing chart. The Final Action Dates chart tells you when USCIS is actually ready to approve and issue your green card. The Dates for Filing chart, sometimes called the Application Filing chart, tells you when you might be allowed to submit your adjustment of status application, even if your green card isn't ready to be approved yet. Filing early under this chart gives applicants access to major benefits: work authorization through an employment authorization document, advanced parole for travel, and the ability to switch jobs more freely. For much of the past few years, USCIS allowed applicants in certain categories to use the more flexible Dates for Filing chart, giving hundreds of thousands of people access to work permits and other benefits while they continued waiting in the backlog. But for May 2026, USCIS has confirmed that employment-based applicants must use the Final Action Dates chart. This is not a small administrative note buried in fine print. This is a significant policy decision that directly affects your timeline and your options. What it means in plain language is this: you cannot file your adjustment of status application until your green card is actually fully ready to be approved. You cannot get in line early. You cannot secure your work permit and travel document ahead of time. You simply have to wait. For people who are counting on early filing to get their work permit renewed, to travel internationally, or to gain the job portability that comes with a pending application, this is a serious setback. It's a stricter approach, and it is, without question, slowing things down further for a population that was already operating under tremendous stress. Now let's shift to family-based categories, because this is where we do see at least some positive movement in the May 2026 bulletin. Certain family preference categories have inched forward. F1, which covers unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, has moved ahead slightly. This is a welcome development for families who have been separated for years while waiting for this category to advance. F3, married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, has also shown a small forward movement, particularly for Mexico and the Philippines, two countries with historically long backlogs in this category. F2A, spouses and children of lawful permanent residents, continues to remain relatively current compared to other family categories, though applicants from oversubscribed countries still face meaningful wait times. F4, brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens, remains among the most backlogged of all family categories, with wait times stretching into multiple decades for applicants from the Philippines and Mexico. So, yes, there is some movement in family-based categories, and for people who have been waiting in those lines, any forward progress is meaningful and deserves acknowledgement. But let's be honest, a movement of a few weeks in a backlog that stretches years, sometimes decades, is not a breakthrough. It's not a signal that the dam is breaking. It's a small crack that, at the current pace, could take a generation to widen into real relief. The structural problems haven't changed. The demand hasn't reduced. The annual limits haven't increased. So while the movement is real, the situation remains fundamentally difficult. Now, let's talk about a category that many high-net-worth immigrants have been turning to as an alternative route: the EB5 Investor Visa Program. Historically, EB5 offered a faster path to a green card for individuals willing to make a significant capital investment in the United States, either directly into a qualifying business or through a USCIS-approved regional center, while creating a minimum number of American jobs. For years, EB5 was seen as the premium lane of the immigration system. If you had the capital, you could potentially bypass the massive employment-based backlogs that trap skilled workers for decades. But that advantage is eroding quickly. Demand for EB-5 visas has surged, particularly from India, where employment-based backlogs have become so severe that many professionals and entrepreneurs are exploring the investor route as the only realistic path to a green card within their working lifetime. As demand increases, so does the pressure on EB-5 visa numbers. And the U.S. government has already issued warnings that this category could face retrogression, meaning priority dates could actually move backwards or even become temporarily unavailable if current demand trends continue. Think about that for a moment. The fast track is starting to look like a regular track, and if retrogression hits EB-5, it won't just affect new applicants. It will affect people who are already in the process, already waiting, already having invested their capital. This is not a hypothetical risk. It is a realistic and documented concern for 2026 and beyond. If you are currently exploring EB-5 as your immigration pathway, you need to be working with an experienced immigration attorney who is tracking this category extremely closely, because the window that exists today may not exist 6 months from now. Now let's talk about early filing restrictions, because the implications here are wide-reaching and deeply personal for a large number of people. For several years, early filing was one of the most powerful tools available to employment-based applicants stuck in long backlogs. By filing the adjustment of status application early, even if the final action date wasn't yet current, applicants could secure a work permit and advance parole. This was a game changer for many people. It meant you could change jobs more freely without risking your immigration status. You could travel internationally without needing a visa stamp. Your spouse could get work authorization too. Your children could remain protected as derivatives even as they aged. For many families, filing early represented a fundamental shift in quality of life while they waited, sometimes for years more, for their actual green card approval. The restriction of this benefit in May 2026 is not just a procedural inconvenience. For many applicants, it removes a layer of stability and flexibility that they had come to depend on. People who were planning to use early filing to navigate a job change, a family situation, or an international trip now need to completely rethink their strategy. This is the system becoming tighter, more rigid, less forgiving of the human realities of people's lives. Now let's talk about predictions. And I'm going to be very direct here because people deserve honest information rather than false optimism. If you are expecting a sudden dramatic jump in priority dates in the coming months, it is based on current data and historical patterns, unlikely. But let's lay out the 3 most realistic scenarios for the remainder of fiscal year 2026. The first scenario is slow and gradual movement. This is the most probable outcome. Each month, priority dates advance by a few weeks, maybe a month in a good month. Nothing dramatic, no breakthroughs. For people in multi-decade backlogs, this pace is almost invisible. Why is this the most likely scenario? Because demand remains high, annual limits remain fixed, and the structural mechanics of the system haven't changed. Without legislative reform, the system continues to operate as it always has. Slowly. The second scenario is temporary retrogression. This is the scenario nobody wants, but it is a genuine risk, especially for categories that have shown any forward movement recently. Retrogression happens when USCIS or the State Department overestimates the availability of visa numbers and must pull back. When this happens, priority dates move backwards. People who thought they were close suddenly find themselves further away. We have seen this happen before, multiple times across multiple categories. And with the current demand environment, particularly for EB-5 and certain family categories, the risk of retrogression is real in the second half of 2026. The third scenario is a short burst of progress near September. The U.S. government's fiscal year ends on September 30th. Every year, USCIS and the State Department attempt to use as many of the annual visa numbers as possible before the fiscal year closes. Numbers that aren't used don't roll over in the same way. There's pressure to maximize utilization. This sometimes, not always, but sometimes, creates a brief acceleration in priority dates in July, August, and September, as agencies try to issue as many green cards as possible before the year ends. If you are close to having a current priority date, this window matters. Watch the bulletin carefully during the summer months. But nothing is guaranteed, and planning your entire life around this possibility is not a strategy. It's a gamble. Let's bring all of this back to ground level, back to you personally, and what you should actually be doing with this information. First, know your exact priority date and your exact category. This sounds obvious, but you would be surprised how many people have a general idea of their situation without knowing the precise details. Your priority date is the date your labor certification was filed or the date your I-130 petition was filed for family categories. Know this date. Write it down. Know it the way you know your birthday. Second, track the Visa Bulletin every single month. The bulletin is released in the third or fourth week of the month, preceding the month it covers. Set a reminder. Check it yourself. Don't rely on someone else to tell you what moved. Being hands-on with this information could be the difference between catching your window and missing it. Third, prepare your documents now, not later. When your priority date becomes current, you will not have weeks to gather everything together. You will have a narrow window, and USCIS processing times do not pause because you weren't ready. Medical exams, tax returns, employment letters, civil documents, have these organized, updated, and ready to go. Fourth, work with a qualified immigration attorney. The rules change. Charts switch. New policy guidance comes out. An attorney who specializes in employment-based or family-based immigration will catch things that a general search won't. This is not the area of your life to navigate alone. Fifth, protect yourself from misinformation. There are forums, Facebook groups, and YouTube comment sections full of people sharing rumors, predictions, and insider information about Visa Bulletin movements. Some of it is well-intentioned, but wrong. Some of it is intentionally misleading. None of it is official. Use it for community support if you need it, but never make decisions based on unofficial predictions. Now let's end with a hard truth. The biggest mistake people are making right now is looking at 1 month of movement, or hearing a rumor of upcoming progress, and convincing themselves that the entire system is about to accelerate. That is not how this works. Visa Bulletin movement is non-linear, unpredictable, and subject to forces that have nothing to do with your individual situation. It can stay frozen for 6 consecutive months and then jump forward 3 years in one announcement. It can move forward every month for a quarter and then retrogress without warning. Patience is not just a virtue in this process, it is a survival skill. Because the people who get hurt most are not just the ones with the long waits. They're the ones who make major life decisions based on expected movement that never comes. People who turn down job offers, delay major purchases, postpone having children, or make financial decisions based on the assumption that their green card is almost there. Plan your life. Adjust your expectations honestly, and let the system move at the pace it moves. Because you cannot force it and you cannot predict it. So let's wrap this up clearly. The May 2026 Visa Bulletin shows very limited progress in employment-based categories. For India and China specifically, the dates have barely moved. EB2 India remains near July 2014. EB3 India near November 2013. USCIS has mandated the use of the final action dates chart for employment-based applicants, which removes the early filing benefits that many people were relying on. Family-based categories show modest improvements in F1 and F3, but the backlogs remain enormous and progress is slow. EB5 demand is rising, particularly from India, and the category is at genuine risk of retrogression or unavailability in the coming months. And the overall direction of the system is toward greater restriction, not greater flexibility. If you are in this process, you are not alone. Millions of people around the world are navigating the exact same frustration, the same uncertainty, the same long and difficult road. But you can get through it, and with clear information, solid preparation, and realistic expectations. Stay updated, stay ready, and when your date finally becomes current, move fast. Because in this system, opportunity doesn't wait. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who's waiting too. And if you want a personalized breakdown of your specific visa category and estimated wait time, drop your category, country of birth, and priority date in the comments below, and we'll break it down for you.